time doesn't erase murder. It just hides it better. They said the case was closed. They said no one was watching. But someone always is. Enter the shadows, where every whisper is a clue, and the line between justice and obsession disappears. This is Santana True Crime.
Welcome to Santana True Crime. Tonight, I've got a special guest. I can't believe that he's gone from being a police officer and, let's be honest, a complete fuck up at some times, to an author of Pig Latin. He's also my boss now at Failure to Stop, Mr. Eric Tansey. And because Eric is such a high-profile guest and one that I believe everyone's been wanting to hear, I brought in Abby Ellsworth. Abby is a writer and podcaster and has her own show on being a police officer. Abby and Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And I've interviewed both of you, and I'm a civilian, you forgot to say.
I think I was like your show might have been like one of the first shows I ever came on to, because I think I was with Mike the Cop at the time, and like usually because that was when we belonged to the Drinking Bro, the Tetherball Network, and every time somebody wanted to interview like a famous podcaster, they always picked Mike the Cop, because he was like the famous host of that show, and I think you were like the first one that like had me come on, because I was like Mike's, I was like co-host, so.
You said you'd never been interviewed so hard.
Yeah, no, I remember it.
Did she make you cry?
Yeah,
because she made me cry, and also Matt Pitcher, who came on her show, cry as well.
No,
yes.
I try to.
So if you ever come on her show, you're a police officer, you're a detective, make sure you bring a box of tissues, because she's going to start pulling at your heartstrings, making you tell about dead babies and how that made you feel. And yeah, you're going to leave a worse person than you were before. But let's start out with something. Eric, I've been waiting to read this book for a while. I'm actually a part of the book. I'm a Jace, your training officer, which is part of this is a true story. And it's really amazing when people hear these stories, because they're so insane that they don't even sound true, to be honest with you. But I can testify to the fact that the stories I was included in are 100% true. Do you mind giving us a reading?
Yeah, I'll do it. And I just finished the audiobook. Like, it was just turned in and submitted yesterday. So like, I have had practice. Do you want me to do it in my Simon Schuster audible voice or whatever?
Yes. And before you do, when is the book available? When can
the 26th of August. And let me tell you, the audiobook, I've never done any of this before. And the guy who directed it, his name is Travis Tawn. And the guy who engineered it was Noel White. And Noel White, the engineer, was in Seattle with Neil deGrasse Tyson and William Shatner doing some kind of audible thing with them. And then he flew back to Clayton, North Carolina, where I was at. And his office was in Raleigh, but he had a setup in Clayton. I don't want to give out too much information, but I got to go to his place. And so I was really nervous, because of that, because he was like, while we were planning this, he was like, oh, right now I'm recording with Neil deGrasse Tyson and William Shatner. And I'm like, oh, I'm not any of those guys. Like, I'm not, and so then Travis Tawn, he did like Hillary Clinton's book. I think it was like Lady Gaga. Like if you look at his list, I think it's Tonn, Travis Tawn. And so he was like, he has all these Donald Sutherland and all these other people. And it was just really wild. And so when I sat down to do the recording, I had no idea what to do. And I was extremely nervous. And so the director, had me like formulate characters. And then because I guess I was so aggressively reading like in characters, that they decided to get a 17-day extension. And then they had musicians come in and create sounds. for the whole book and music. So it's really like a movie production, and they would have me like read in a voice and then go back and read it again in the same voice. And I felt like I was in a movie, and then they would, conspire with the musicians to come up with sounds or music. So I think the audiobook is probably one of the craziest things I've ever done in my whole life. The audio.
I don't think people really realize of how much work an audiobook is, and most authors don't do it for that reason. And you spent, this was like weeks of reading, right?
Yeah, it was definitely
and like an 8-hour day.
Yeah, it was like full day, lots of practice too. And then I think that like most people that do an audiobook, if they're not, I don't want to say an actor because I'm not really an actor, but like I'm very enthusiastic and very passionate about things. And so like, for example, he said like Hillary Clinton, like there was no way they were going to put theatrics behind Hillary Clinton's voice because she just reads, you know what I mean? Like it would be weird if there were sounds. And he was like, but the way I read, my reading style and just my theatrics, was an opportunity for them to be able to add music and sounds. And it was just really, really fun to do. But like one day, for example, I showed up and he was like, I don't like your morning voice at all. It's too raspy. It doesn't sound right. So we're going to reschedule this. Like when's something that we can do this at night and try it again, like either in the afternoon at night. So after that, I pretty much only had options to do it in the afternoon or in the evening because I didn't like my morning voice. And then at one point, because it was coming up on July 4th, everybody's schedules lined up to do it in the morning. And so I was like, well, I'll just wake up really, really early and make my morning voice better for you guys. And so like that was the way around it. They were like, all right, so like set your alarm for 5 a.m. And that way when we do this at like 9 a.m., it'll be more like, you're doing this at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Or no, I think we still did it at like noon. But yeah, I'd wake up at 5. And anyway, I just thought that was very interesting, like how much attention to detail that they play into making an audiobook like that.
No, absolutely. All right. So in your audio voice character,
this will be weird because I've never done it without a director yelling at me.
Okay. So Abby, can you yell at Tansey?
Read it again.
Count you
louder.
Down.
Read it again. Slower.
3,
all right.
2.
Hovering over me, perched at the top of a short set of stairs and framed like a goddess by the early morning sun stands a rather large woman. And when I say large, I want to be really clear about exactly what I'm staring at. I don't mean big boned. I don't mean plus size. I mean, this lady is 400 pounds, the same weight as a large male lion or, a bear. She has an American flag wrapped around her head like a turban, and she is draped by a long sundress that is flowing just a little at the bottom as the wind blows past her. If someone started playing the theme song to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly right now, it would be oddly appropriate. But that's not what's worrying me 12 whole minutes into my first ever shift in the Southeast District of the Raleigh Police Department. Nor is it her death stare, as if she's looking right through me. Is that good?
Excellent. Abby, do you need to throw anything at him or yell at him for anything?
Well, I want to jump right into the story because you, Mr. Man, Cameron, were there torturing poor Eric. So,
let's talk about this because I do feel like I've been waiting to do this podcast for a while to defend myself a little bit, just to give everyone some perspective of,
Well, before you get there. All right, but here's the thing, poor Eric. And you know what? I'm thinking about this, and just before we really get into it, the book is amazing. Everyone should run out and buy it. And I've read it twice. I've laughed every time. It's been emotional every time. And I think, Eric, one of the greatest things about it is it's really in your voice. And the way you tell stories and the way you talk is so unique to you that it's really just congratulations. I know that you just got the hard copy. And that was a really big moment for you. But what occurred to me is that as I'm reading this, I know that you two are friends now. And so this is I'm trying to think about what this was like when it happened. So he's your boss, or he's your FTO, field training officer. And I like the line where he just says, I look over to my training officer, Jace, as I round out my 13th minute on the force. Jace has his arms crossed and looks bored. Fingers facing the ground, he extends his arm a little and flicks his wrist at me in the get on with it motion. So I'm just like, okay, guys, elaborate. I mean, because what were you doing to him, Cameron? And what were you thinking, Eric?
I just want to explain something to everyone before we start. Okay. When you get the Raleigh Police Academy is a pretty extensive academy, but when you come out, you've got zero experience. And so my training philosophy is that I get people as much training as I can in those 9 weeks. And then that way, when they're shipped off to another district, which we're also going to cover, they're fully prepared, or as prepared as they can be. And that's how I was trained. When I came on as a police officer, I was the youngest in my squad. I was the only one that was not married. These guys were extremely salty, and you were expected to do absolutely everything. And if there was something on your day off, like an event or a protest, it was your responsibility to step up right away. If there was a crappy assignment, you were expected to volunteer. No one should be asking you. So that was kind of the standard which I was raised. And I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do too. So what's really interesting about this story before we start is that Raleigh had softened some in their approach to training, and they even had this class for field training officers where they're like, oh, well, we need to give them a week to transition between the academy and being out in the field. So why don't they're going to pretty much be a ride along. So they're going to ride along in the passenger seat and not take any calls. You just do everything and show them, around and how to do everything. And I remember leaving that. I was like, fuck that. I'm not doing that.
I was going to say, that didn't fucking happen.
Right.
That's not what it was like.
And so I handed Eric the keys first day. And Eric, if you want to start from there, what was your feeling when I handed you those keys and told you to go get the car?
I showed up, so I couldn't sleep that night. I was so excited, and I was going to the Southeast District. And so the whole academy, all they talked about was Southeast District. If you're one of those Southeast District cops, if you're one of those Southeast District cops, those Southeast District cops, they've had this happen in Southeast. And we had these radios that we could listen to, during class and on breaks from class. They always had these radios going. And it was like everything you heard came from the Southeast District. And so I really had this like I just couldn't wait to get to the Southeast District. And whenever a Southeast Raleigh cop would actually come to the academy, because the academy was in the North District, which was completely opposite, obviously, of Southeast. But you could always tell it was a Southeast officer when they walked in. They had a certain walk to them. Their uniforms looked a certain way. They had their hair was always a little bit different than everybody else's. And I just knew that I was going to fit in down in the Southeast. And so the night before, I could not sleep. I was so excited. And really, I just didn't want to fuck anything up. But I was really excited because the academy was really hard for me because of my military background. The instructors knew my military background, and they really, really went hard on me, even though they didn't understand my military background or what it meant. They saw what it was on paper, and they had a grandiose idea of what those things meant, but they didn't actually know what the reality of those. It wasn't as sexy as it looked on paper. And so I felt like I spent the whole academy trying to prove that I wasn't the guy that they thought I was. I wasn't this badass character that they had made up in their brain. No, I am a guy who wants to learn all about this job. And, I knew my learning curve is steep, but I start lower than everybody else because I'm just simply I'm not as smart or sometimes I feel like I'm not as smart as everybody else, but I have to learn quicker. I'm a little bit more immature in nature than everybody else. So when I got to the squad, my whole goal was I'm going to be this mature guy, and they don't know my academy life. So this is going to be great. And no, when I showed up, it was, go get in the car. You've got a call. And It sucked. I mean, it was like they just thought like Santana was like, he just kept mentioning my military background. And I was like, man, you cannot be further from the truth. Like, I need a mentor. Like, I need to learn. I don't know. You think I know. I really don't know.
Well, and so how did this call come out? I mean, and
I don't know.
So she's this enormous. The thing is so funny is you talk about how she's in a boxing stance, a boxer's stance, right? And I think, and I mean, you should tell the story, but like twice in the book, the fatal error was to look away.
Yeah.
You looked at Jace, Cameron, and then she went for you.
Because I didn't know what to do. You know, I think the call came out. I don't know what the call came out because I wasn't privy to that information. I don't even think I had a radio. Matter of fact, I didn't have a radio for like 2 weeks. Remember Santana? Remember Jace? That my radio wasn't down. Like they hadn't uploaded all the information into my radio, and so you kept yelling at me for like 2 weeks about not having information. And you were like, you're a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? You need to learn how to use your radio. And then finally you got frustrated and you took the radio and you're like, holy shit. Like I basically had the shell of a radio.
Right. What actually happened was that we didn't figure that piece out until I lost you into the woods, which that story is not in the book as well.
No, because I forgot about it. But I got in a foot chase and I had the radio.
Right.
And I was lost in the woods I wasn't lost, but they had lost me. I knew what I was doing.
2 guys, one broke to the right, one broke to the left. And my guy like got under a shed. And so I was trying to get Tansey on we call him like an ops channel. So it's a channel that you have to actually turn to. You're not dispatched to, right? So I'm saying, Tansey, come over here. I've got this guy pinned down. And I heard nothing. And people monitor those channels, including dispatch. And so I thought, okay, maybe Tansey is on the wrong channel. Maybe he's on the dispatch channel. So I turned it to the dispatch channel and I started to say, Tansey, come over here, blah, blah, blah. And he's not answering up. So eventually the watch commander, who's like the acting chief, gets on the radio and says, Santana, did you just lose your rookie? And I was like, sir, I've got this suspect down. And he was like, nope.
Where's your rookie?
Leave the suspect, go find your rookie. And so we had to, dispatch units and whatnot. And by the time
my suspect ran through the woods, so I just ran off into the woods chasing the suspect. And then he laid down. We ran through the woods quite a big ways. And I'm not familiar with Raleigh, so I didn't know where I was at. And we came like into the backside of another neighborhood. And I think he jumped the fence and there's a pit bull. And I think he was hiding behind the pit bull's doghouse. And so I was kind of like posted up trying to wait him out. And I was like trying to hide myself so that he would get up and run again. And I never got there because all these cops were like yelling my name and like, Tansey, where are you? Blow your whistle. Like,
we're like blowing whistles in the woods there. It was, and then as a training officer, that's kind of embarrassing. And I was like, well, why didn't you answer the radio? I honestly, thought that he just didn't have his radio on or something stupid. And come to find out, they actually programmed his radio wrong and did not add all the channels that he was supposed to.
But to be fair, I'd been telling him this for like over a week. And he just said that like he would do some extra training to teach me how to use the radio. And that never happened. So I guess I don't know how the radio call came out, but I just remember, and again, I wasn't from Raleigh. It was still dark outside and we just pull up to this house. And of course it's the Southeast District. And I just came out of like warrior mindset training, which is like the last 5 days of your training. They spend like 2 days showing you all these cops getting murdered. And then they spend 3 days showing you all these cops winning. And they're like talking about like difference between a warrior's mindset and basically a winner's mindset and a loser's mindset. And so like, I'm still like on edge, like trying not to get shot in the face on my first day. And I'm in the middle of the hood. I wasn't raised anywhere near a hood. There wasn't a hood where I grew up. So like gang culture and hood culture was something totally new to me. And, I thought I was going to defeat racism, when I came to Raleigh, because I was like, I don't understand like how they, how people like I think they're just misunderstood. And then I learned what hood culture was, and I don't like to say that hood culture is black culture, because it's not. The black people I grew up with don't act like that. The black people I knew in the military, they don't act like that. That's not their culture. And I don't know like why hood culture has become America's like version of Black America. But that's not that's maybe that's because they're the loudest and they'd like you to think that that's black culture, but it's not. And so I was not used to hood culture. I didn't understand hood culture. And now I'm in the hood, and I've got this kid coming up to me, which, when you're coming from it, from my perspective of never being around it, you think how inappropriate is it that this kid has to deal with this before he goes to school? And the fact that kid got on a school bus in the middle of the incident is also something I don't think that like Jace or any of the other cops that had been around for a while, like knew how much that played into my mindset. Like I talked about that for days. Like I told my mom, I told my dad, I was like, and this kid fucking goes to school. Like he gets on the school bus while I'm fighting his naked mother. Like that's something I would have just like not gone to school for. I've been like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't go to school today. Cops are fighting my mom. You know what I mean? Now imagine that kid had to go sit through school all day, and he doesn't even know what the outcome of the event was. He didn't know his mom went to jail. He didn't know anything. He just went to fucking school.
So this is the fat lady's kid?
Yes.
Oh no.
Like this fat lady's kid who was like 14. He like came out to the car and he's like, my mom's off her meds. And I looked over at Santana, and Santana was like, go deal with it. And I was like, go deal with it? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, bro. Of course I didn't say that. I was like, yes, sir. And then, obviously you see how bad it went in the book. And I just, I basically get my ass kicked by a fat woman in my first 13 minutes, and she gets naked and she tries to poop on me. And, you've read the stories, but yeah, I mean, in those moments, I was so mad at Jace. I wasn't mad at Jace, but I was mad at myself for I just was like, why me? Why is it that everybody has made up their mind of what kind of person I am, but none of them have actually asked me to tell my side of any of the stories? These people just think that because they read my DD 214 that I have some kind of training that makes me an expert cop. And I'm like, you guys are fucking crazy. But I didn't know at the time that was like every rookie went through that. I didn't know that. I thought it was like just me, like very selfish, right? Probably narcissistic in some ways, but, in the moment, I was so consumed with like, why is this happening to me, that I was mad at Jace at the moment. I was like, this guy's why is he doing this to me? But
well, go ahead, Abby.
No. I just was going to say, my understanding is that naked people are also difficult to handcuff.
Well, yeah, especially if you don't know how to handcuff.
You have nothing to hold. What were you going to say, Cameron? Sorry.
Yeah, and just to give people some perspective on this, a lot of times when you're training people, you're of the mindset of, okay, I'm going to try to call swap, and sometimes that may even involve going to another district to get this person experience with a certain type of call. So like, let's say there's a fatality wreck. You're like, okay, I want my rookie to go work on that. And the rookie is not going to be actually taking the report, but maybe the rookie would be, setting up traffic cones, directing, doing some part of it to get them some experience. And you are exactly right about how you were hyped up. When I did some research on you, and I was talking to someone at the academy, we'll call her Lauren, and she described you as being, quote, special, but really sound tactically, and told me about some exercise y'all did where you were the only one who didn't get shot. But there is people do come.
Yeah, but I got in trouble on that exercise because I took the gun apart and threw it into the woods.
I remember hearing about that too.
Yeah, and they were like, what the fuck are you doing? And I was like, well, I don't have time to deal with this guy, but I don't want him to shoot me in the back. So I just took his gun, stripped it, and threw it out in the woods. And they were like, what the fuck? It's like, yeah, we had to go out there and look for all the pieces. But like, I just stripped the slide off and chucked the slide in one direction. And I think I dumped the butt into the dumpster, which was a real life dumpster in a real life place. And they were like, what did you just do? Because I had some training in those kind of situations, and that's what I don't know. This is like what was going through my head, but yeah, like everything I did, man, I got in trouble. Or, people would just look at me like I was fucking stupid.
Yeah, and I never thought that you were stupid. I really actually enjoyed riding with you, but everything just seemed to be attracted to you. I mean, that was your first call where and we didn't go into great detail. You're going to have to get the book, Pig Latin. It's available for pre-order now. But your first call being a 400-pound woman who's trying to poop on the American flag. I mean, you really just can't make any of that up. And what even makes it better is let's go into call number 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Naked guy in the back of some poor woman's car. Like, yeah, back to back within like 30 minutes of each other. Like, I went to jail 2 times in the course of like an hour and a half.
Right. And you know what's even better about this is that there always seems to be a theme with rookies. Like with Red, it was, which you also mentioned in the book, anyone that had a warrant, she could throw a rock at and, or a rock into like a group of people, they would have a warrant. So we're constantly, taking people to jail for warrants. With you,
that's Red in the book. By the way.
Right.
Yeah. And I was the naked bear, and it carried out my whole career. You know what I mean? I feel like every big naked case that we ever had, I was a part of it.
So it sounds like you sounded a little confused and defeated by that first call. Do you want to tell them too at the jail of how much I helped you when with naked?
Yeah,
fat lady?
I'll never forget this. I'll never forget that moment when I was trying to type on the keyboard and I couldn't type, and so I typed like this, like monkey fingers. And so he came walking up behind me, and I was like, and here's where I get made fun of because I can't type. And then all of a sudden I hear the slaps on the floor or like clapping sounds, and I look up and she's standing right in front of me, shitting. She's standing up on the bench and shitting down on the floor, and I spring backwards, and Jason's like, "You're lucky she's not throwing that at you." And it was like, I knew the way he said it and where he was standing in correlation to me that like if she was gonna throw shit at me, he was gonna let her throw shit at me to teach me a lesson. And I was like, fuck, like this motherfucker is serious. Like he's going to make me learn the hard way. And it wasn't that bad, but I wrote the book, years and years and years ago, like as these things kind of happen. And so I wrote them from the perspective of what I was in that moment. You know what I mean? Like it's easier now to go back and tell that story and say like, oh, Chase is a loving, great training officer, because he really was. But now I know why. You know what I mean? It's like when your mom punishes you when you were like a little kid, and in that moment you're like, I have the worst mom in the world. But when you're 20 years old, you're like, oh, dude, totally. My mom was like legit. Like, you know what I mean? That's how I kind of feel about it now. But like in the moment, my perspective at the time, my perception on that day in that time frame was like, fuck, I've got to grow up really, really, really fast, because I don't know that this motherfucker's not gonna. Like he's willing to go the distance to make me learn the hard way. And I don't really want to get shit thrown all over me. So I better figure it out.
And that's a really good transition for what we're going to be talking about next. So my whole point again in training to defend myself is that one day you're going to be off on your own and these crazy calls are going to happen and you're going to have to learn to deal with it. And a lot of those calls are not things that you can teach in the academy, because they have to stay within some moral bounds. They cannot have a scenario where a 300-pound woman gets naked and takes a shit on the training mat, like especially on the American flag. So they have to tame things down. Let's talk about when you decided to take your mom for a ride along. So you're off training, you're on your own. It's time to use those 20 weeks of training that you have. Can you set the stage for us?
I can set the stage.
Go ahead.
No, go, Eric.
No, I mean, my mom and dad were in town, and
New Year's Eve.
And my mom was like, you know, she's such a wonderful person and a sweet lady and very naive. And she wanted to see what it was like for me to be a cop. And so I thought I'd bring her in for like 3 hours on New Year's, just for dinner time, just to meet you guys, see where I worked, you know, go to dinner. And then I would take her back to the station. And that's what we did, except she wanted me to pull a car over. And so we found a car that had no headlight. But not only did it not have a headlight, it stopped at a green light, which was very weird. But I was like, whatever, it's right here. Let's go ahead and pull it over. Ends up being not a car chase, but like he runs from us. And so I was about to call it and he pulled himself over. And yeah, not to go like too far into the story. I don't know how deep you want me to go into it, but the guy basically, well, it comes down to where the guy gets out of the car and beats the fucking brakes off me, shatters my back teeth. I break my hand. He bites me. I mean, it's a very long and vicious animalistic fight over the hood of my car and out onto the concrete. And it's all in front of my mother. So I don't know like how much detail you want, but
well, let's talk about this. One of my points is that you were all along and you were trying to call for a check-in, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes radios don't work the best when, you know, you're getting punched in the face, right?
Right.
And so I'm sure that in reality, this probably only lasted minutes.
Yeah, I think it was like a minute. I think it was a minute and 41 seconds total.
Oh, it sounds like 10 minutes.
But yeah. And like, I don't even think the minute and 41, like probably 41 seconds of that is just like the end of it, like just being out of breath. So it's probably only like a minute of getting my ass whooped.
And again, what was your mom's response at the end of this?
Well, she wanted to know if I shot him. Like that was the first thing she said. She said, "Did you shoot that boy?" And I said, "No, ma'am." And she was like, "Did that boy shoot you?" And I said, "No." She's like, "I want to go home." And I was like, "Well, I can get you home, but I have to go to the hospital first, you know." And my nose was, you know, busted and my teeth were all bloodied and, you know, my elbows and my knees were all bloody. And then Santana comes up and I don't know, cuts my tie in half again or some shit.
No, that wasn't that time.
Yes, you did.
I think you did it. You did it that time too.
I may have. Well, I'll tell you my perspective is I had another. Who do you call Kranz in the book?
He's not in the book.
Okay. I thought that you may have mentioned his name. Well, I had another rookie. He was also another military veteran. And we were working with Drugs and Vice that day to help him with a takedown. So we weren't even on the channel that Eric was on. So we could not hear any of his requests. And I got a call from my lieutenant and he sounded like a disappointed dad. And he just kind of huffed and he was just like, "Damn it, Santana. Eric got into another fight. Will you please go over there and just handle things? I'm leaving this meeting now, but he's going to need some help." And all I knew was your location. And I get there and EMS is there and they're loading you into the EMS truck. And I tell my rookie to take your car and I walk over to Eric, ask him what happened. And just to kind of give you a picture, his shirt is completely ripped apart and you were not wearing a tie. And the reason why I know that is because one of the comments we'll mention later, but your mouth was bloody. Your hand was swollen. And I remember I told you I loved you more than rainbows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what we did not know is that Eric decided to leave his microphone on for the entire time to include the trip to the hospital.
To be fair, I had been like knocked unconscious like 30 seconds, like 10 minutes earlier. So I didn't even think about that fucking microphone. Like I didn't even, it's not like I intentionally was like, I'm going to leave my microphone on. It was like, I didn't even know where I was at in that moment.
You called it something in Failure to Stop recently where that cop was beaten, something like Code Black or
Condition Black,
Black, where you basically are knocked out, but you know that you have to.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. There's an artist rendition for people that are watching YouTube
Jonathan
courtesy
Bates.
of John Bates.
Yep.
That's
and it's super perfect. Like it's like,
yeah,
really
but
good.
that's a very accurate description. Do you remember what Sergeant Tom said to you that day?
Where's your tie?
Yes. And why is he not breathing? Or why is he still breathing?
Yeah, he says,
He
why
got
is this
in
guy
trouble
still
for
breathing?
that one?
Yeah, so I left my microphone on, and this is, I mean, I think I touched on it a little bit in the book. Probably should have touched on it more, but I accidentally left my mic on for 48 minutes or something like that. And so our private conversations in the back of an ambulance, the internal affairs fucking losers comb through the entire 48 minutes like little voyeuristic fucking perverts. Because that's what gets them horny, is anything that they can comb through it. It's like when your parents leave the house and you go through their room to try to find all their dildos and porno mags when you're a teenager. Like that's what internal affairs is, except they're like 50 fucking years old still doing the same dumb shit. And so there, whereas there was nothing I did wrong, they see that there's 48 minutes of microphone audio from inside of a thing. And so they comb through the whole thing and they count how many F words I use in the whole thing. And they just try to really, they try to make it way worse than it was. And, Santana got there way after the fact. And what people don't know is in the story and the book is the guy pretended to be a homosexual. He pretended to be a flamboyantly gay guy to distract me from his, multiple 8 balls of cocaine that he was trying to smuggle. What we also didn't know was that he had just ran from another cop and his buddy had gotten out of the car and was in a foot chase and the cops had caught him and he passed me and thought that I knew that he had just dropped this guy off in this foot chase because they were selling dope on New Year's Eve. None of that was, I didn't know that. Nobody knew that. And so his tactic was to pretend to be gay. Now, Santana didn't know this because he wasn't there. So when Santana left me in the ambulance, to make sure I was okay and, make sure my mom was taken care of and, they were going to get my car back to the station, yada, yada, yada. He's like, all right, love you more than rainbows. Because from the day that I was training, when I hang up with somebody on the phone, I always say, I love you. It doesn't matter if it's a sales rep from AT&T or Abby Ellsworth or anybody. I always say, all right, I love you. I'll talk to you later. I say it all the fucking time. And so he would say like, I love you more than rainbows. And we just did this shit all the time. So when he said that on the microphone, the internal affairs took that as him making fun of the gay guy.
Oh,
yeah.
But one, the guy wasn't gay. And two, there was no way that Santana would have ever known that because he wasn't there and wasn't like, I didn't be like, the guy was pretending to be gay and then he beat the shit out of me. Like that never came out because I didn't even know that that's what had happened. Like I didn't know that the guy was pretending to be gay until like weeks and weeks later when a psychologist and 2 guys from the SWAT team and our SCAT instructors went over the tape with me to show me exactly what happened that day and, where everything went south. I didn't even know in the moment, again, because I got knocked out. Like the guy fucking knocks me out like in his first or second punch. I mean, my knees collapse, my head whips back, and it takes me a few seconds to come back while he's still beating my head in. Well,
and the change in demeanor, I think he was saying, he wanted a black cop, or he doesn't want you to hurt him. Don't hurt me. And I think the sudden change, then he became kind of like an animal. And he really was. He wanted to stick your head in the trunk and close the trunk on your head, trying to get you to show him where the broken taillight was. So I think the shock of the change in demeanor, and then you looked away to see, you thought your backup was coming. And in that moment, he charges at you.
Yeah. And Santana. So, one of the things we had to explain out of this whole ordeal where I did nothing wrong. But all of a sudden IA has made this like 2 or 3 day, 4 day investigation over shit. Like, why did Santana say, I love you more than rainbows? Now when I did the IA investigation, I had not seen the tape yet. I did not know that this guy had like faked being gay. You know what I mean? So I was just like, because we say I love you all the time, it's fucking retarded, but we're in the middle of an ambulance. It's just us. And like, I literally say that to them all the time. They're like, Are you sure that's why? He didn't do it for any other reason? I didn't know what they were talking about. I was like, I don't know what other reason he would. I mean, yeah, because we're fucking gay. Like, he fucks me in the ass. I mean, like, what do you want me to say? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gay. I'm married to a woman. I tell everybody on the squad I love them. And we just say gay shit. Like, because I didn't know that they. So when he gets to internal affairs, what do they ask you?
Yeah. So when I got to internal affairs, first of all, when you go to IA, they don't tell you in advance why you're going. Your sergeant just calls you and says, you've got to report to Sergeant so-and-so in internal investigations. And you just leave straight from wherever you are to go to internal affairs. So you don't have time to prep. And a lot of times too, you'll be called in about older cases that someone may have complained on you for, especially if it's something minor. So it could have happened months ago, and now you're getting called because you didn't fill out X, Y, and Z form, or you didn't follow X, Y, and Z policy. But for this time, they actually had me sit down with, it was either the lieutenant or captain of IA. Normally you would sit down with a sergeant. And as soon as he told me about what it was about, I was like, oh, like this is going to be nothing. They're just checking boxes. Because I thought, how can Tansey get in trouble for getting his ass kicked? And I mean, he could have shot the guy at that point. If someone tries to knock you out, you have every right to shoot him in the face. He didn't do that. He kept it with just his hands. And from my perspective, as far as what I had done, which was just make sure he was okay, and I rode with him or followed him up to the hospital, there wasn't anything that I knew that I violated as well too. So we're kind of going through this day, and I'm telling him, yeah, I wasn't on the radio because I was working with Drugs and Vice that day. And I got there and I was explaining how Tansey, his shirt was ripped. He's got a bloody nose. His hand is swollen. And he stopped, or he asked me, at any point, did you say, I love you more than rainbows? And I just started laughing. I said, look, the whole thing about I love you more than rainbows is I was watching the Oscars with my wife, and this guy said, honey, I love you more than rainbows. And I thought it was the stupidest thing for an acceptance speech. So I started to, say that with Tansey. And he stops the recorder and goes, oh, hey, I had to get that in there because the guy was a little, and does his, like a limp wristed motion. Which
like these fucking cowards can't just say the word gay. That's how fucking cowardice these internal affairs fucking losers are.
So I had no clue that the guy was actually gay because I had no interaction with him or appeared to be gay. Whether he was gay or not, it really doesn't matter to me. But
I don't even think he was gay. I think it was an act anyway.
I'm sure it was. And that sounds legit. But I do think that, when we're looking at an incident like this from a tactical and training point of view, it really highlights of how you really need to be prepared to handle things on your own. And from this book, it really just shows the amount of like shitstorms you get into a relatively short period of time. I mean, this is not a 20-year career.
No. I mean, I was a cop for I think like my whole journey trying to be a cop was like 8 years, but like I was actually only working the street for like 6.5 or 7 years. Because it took me a year to work through I had to do like the fucking polygraph twice because it expired. That's how long it took me to actually become a cop with Raleigh. So, but like actually working the street was only like 6.5 years because like a good 6 or 7 months of the end of my career, they had taken my badge away and my gun away. So I wasn't even on the street. So yeah, like if you want to just have like action, running and gunning, let's just say 6 years. I mean, I packed in a 30 career and that the book's not about me being like, me being a grandiose good cop. Like that's not what the book's about. The book is a realistic depiction of what you're going to see as a police officer. And it's more of a comedy, but I don't know. What did you think? You read the book. How did it, because I did get one review already from an advanced reader that says that I look, or that I sound pretentious in the book.
I believe she called you an asshole too.
That was a different lady. She said she wants to like the book, but the author is so obviously an asshole, I can't give him 5 stars. And so she gave me 3.
This is what I appreciated about the book, is that you've got stories like that, which they've got a lot of serious components too, but you write it in a comical fashion. But then there's also points where you talk about a Mexican man that was murdered and he dies in your arms. And this is, takes a really emotional toll on you as a person. And you see moments like that, which, Abby, I know this is like your specialty. So if you would like to make Eric cry to talk about this, that's good with me.
Well, we did cover it in the first interview I did with you. You said, I mean, you could set up the story, but you said that's the one you don't talk about.
Yeah, no, it was even hard to like do the audio version of the book. It was really hard to do the audio version of the book. I thought I was good to go on the audio version. And then when we got to the story, it's just like one of those ones. It's just like,
that's the one.
Yeah, it's really bad. I don't like to, it's just, no, it's a haunting one. Like it really, really does haunt me. And we saw a lot of people die, and that's fine. Like that doesn't bother me at all. But that one just haunted me just because like it almost made me scared of death. Have you ever seen Apocalypto or whatever, the Mel Gibson movie? Apocalypto. There's a scene in Apocalypto where the head Indian tells all the other Indians not to look at another Indian because that Indian was afraid. And he says fear is contagious. And I saw that movie after this incident, and I was like, man, I was never afraid to die until that moment. And now that moment, I do have an anxiety about death that comes from that moment. It was just a very dramatic way it was just a very sad way to die. And I just hope that when it's my turn to go, that it's not that sad. Like that's just a really shitty, I can't think of a worse way to die than the way he died. Like I'd rather be tortured to death than die on the fucking streets of Southeast Raleigh for no fucking reason at all.
Well, and he and the other guys were mugged essentially, or robbed. And what you said was that he knew he was dying, and, you were trying to get him to hang on. And the other part of it is that you had to spend the night in the hospital with his wife and mother, crying, holding your ankles, hitting you.
It was awful.
I mean, just.
That was like the longest night of my life for sure. But I mean, it's like, and it's crazy because like after that, Santana brought up other stories that weren't in the book. Like, remember the guy that died on Thanksgiving? You know what I mean? Like almost the same scenario, but I can't explain why one affected me and the other one didn't. But like the one that Santana brought up, the Thanksgiving one, like I didn't even remember it enough to put it in the book. Like it's not even in the rough drafts of the book. I just totally forgot about it. And that was the one where the kid got shot in the leg, and I told the mom he was going to be okay. Like I never remembered that until you brought it up a few months ago.
There were so many stories that I was almost disappointed that you didn't include. Maybe you'll do a second book, or maybe you'll.
At this point, I think I have to, because there's so many other cops that are like, why didn't you put this story in, or why didn't you put that story in?
Yeah.
And it's that too is kind of cool to me about like what stories mean something to cops and which ones don't, because like I think it's fascinating. And then when I do go back and I think about that story on Thanksgiving Day, I mean, it was the week before Thanksgiving, and this just kid gets shot in the leg, and I end up finding his mother. And so like Santana saying earlier, it's like the shit always finds me. How many cops were out there that day for this shooting?
I don't know. I just
probably like 30.
Right. And again, people get shot in the leg all the time.
Right. And what are the chances that that the mother of this guy is going to come to me? Like, what are the chances out of all these cops? Yeah, because the mom came over to me and she was like, hey, I think that's my son.
Right. The Eric Tansey factor is 100%.
Yeah. It's,
There are other stories too, where we had a crowd of people, and one of them's in the book, and the suspect will look past everyone out, and happens every time, picks Eric Tansey out of him. And it's like,
I'm kicking your. Remember the one guy was. It's not in the book, but there was one where this whole group, this female officer of ours, she's trying to calm this guy down at a mental institute.
That's
and
what
he's got a Budweiser beer in his hand, I think it was a Budweiser. Maybe it was a Yingling or something. I don't know, but he had he had a beer bottle in his hand that he'd gotten somewhere, and I got in there late, and there's like 10 or 15 cops like trying to talk this guy down. It's in a mental institute already. And he's waving this bottle around and everything. And then I show up and I'm just standing there at the very back. And this guy goes, you right there. And everybody looks back and it's just me. And I'm like, me? He's like, by the end of all this, when this is all said and done, I'm slitting your fucking throat.
Oh,
and everybody was like, yo, Tansey, what'd you do? I was like, I just fucking got here. Like, I don't even fucking know, like, I don't even know your name, dude. And he was like, yeah, before this is all over, I'm slitting your fucking neck. So yeah, so this lady just comes up to me and she was like, I think that's my son. And I was like, well, I don't know. And she says his name. And I'm like, I don't know the kid's name. What do you think he was wearing? And she says what he's wearing to a T. And I was like, fuck yeah, that is your kid. So I go and I tell the Sarge that I got the mom. And he was like, well, take her to the hospital. You know, he's going to Wake Med. And so I'm taking her to the hospital and we see a BMW and she's like, that's the car that shot my son. So I pull around and I start to tail this car from several cars back to see where the car's going, and it goes to this location. So I hide my cop car and I'm on the phone with detectives. I'm like, I got the car here. It's parked at this house, da, 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 da. And so like they're getting a SWAT team, mounted up and everything. 'Cause she's like 100% sure that this is the car that shot her son. And while I'm waiting for it all to go down, the Sarge calls me back on my cell phone. And he's like, hey, get her to the hospital. And I was like, all right. I was like, are you listening to the radio? He's like, I am. And I was like, she's the witness. She's the one that's, because the SWAT team is going to need her. He's like, get her to the hospital. And I was like, oh, all right. So I hang up and we're driving to the hospital. And it's just like, I want to say like 2 or 3 days before Thanksgiving. And so I'm like, are you ready for Thanksgiving? She's like, oh my God, I'm ready for Christmas. I've already got all the Christmas shopping done. Let's just say the guy's name is like Terry. She's like, I already got Terry this 49ers jersey. It's, it was $120 something. It's an authentic jersey. He's going to love it. Actually, it was a Baltimore Ravens jersey. And she's like, he's going to love it, blah, 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 blah. And she's going in all in on this. And she's like, I've just been, he's running with this bad crowd lately. And it's the same story that we hear from all the moms, And we get to the hospital and, I've been telling her this whole time, the guy's he was shot in the leg and like, it's fine. And he was, cooperative and he was fine and everything. We get to the hospital and the fucking guy's dead. And they tell her like, I'm bringing her in. We're all laughing, giggly, talking about fucking sports ball and stuff like that. And they're like, I'm so sorry to tell you, but your son, he suffered a femoral artery burst and, he died, about 8 minutes ago. And we were both like standing there, like in the hallway. I didn't expect it to come. Normally they take you to a room and like, they just laid it right out there. And she was like, lost her shit, And I totally forgot about that story because it didn't affect me the same way as that Hispanic kid, because it wasn't about the family that really bothered me. It was really just the fear in his eyes while he was dying that really bothered me. I think at the end of the day. And just, but this kid was selling dope and he got shot. I think that's how I compartmentalized that one. It's like, well, fuck you, dude. Like you were selling dope and you got shot, like sucks, but you know what I mean? The Mexican one, he was just working. Like he didn't do anything wrong. He was a good person.
Right. And you talk about in the book about how that affected you. And then afterwards you were trying to lay low, but then Red text you about someone had put on Facebook that, and I believe this was like a neighborhood group or something that detectives were forwarded, that there was a body behind behind Wee Bob's, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Which is like a little local convenience store. Can you tell us about kind of what happened? Again, this story is included in the book.
Yeah, and it's 100% true. I know a lot of people are like, is that true? Did that really happen? Like it really
I can confirm this 100% happened because I remember making fun of you for a very long time.
A lot of people did. Yeah. So basically, as he says, that there is a body behind Weebops. And so she calls and she's like, hey, I just got this like message on my phone from dispatch that there might be a body behind Weebops. And I was like, I didn't hear that go out on the radio. She's like, they just messaged it to me on our computer messaging system. And I was like, she's like, will you come back there with me? I was like, yeah, sure. So I drive over there and we walk back through a trail and there it is. There's a body in the middle of the trail with a bullet right between its head, freshly dead body. And so of course there's a crime scene and everything it's set up. And it's not really my crime scene. It's her crime scene because it's her call. I was just there to kind of help her and she's not going to fuck me over and like, make me be a part of the call. So I kind of just disappeared back to my car and I was watching YouTube on the perimeter where the crime scene tape was at and just trying to stay out of the whole. I just didn't want to be a part of any of it because I didn't want to have to type anything and generally just lazy excuses. And I get, there's probably 30 cops there, detectives, cops, sergeants. And I get a tap on my window. And it's this guy that says he thinks he knows who the body belongs to. And he thinks it's his brother. And he gives me this whole sob story. And I mean, read the book. There's a lot more details and it's a lot funnier, but I end up giving this motherfucker a ride to the detective station and he's the murderer. And I drive him around and help him dispose of evidence, but I didn't know that I was driving around helping him dispose of evidence. Like he needed to run some errands before he could go talk to the detectives. And little did I know that during those errands, and I'll let you read the book because it's a lot more funnier than that, but he discards of the firearm, the cell phone, and all the other evidence, which luckily we were able to go back to each location and find those bits of evidence. But I was forever like, yes, I was deemed the guy that drove around a murderer and helped him get rid of murder evidence. And he was in my car with a fucking gun.
Yeah.
After he just killed somebody.
And you didn't search him.
I didn't search him at all. No. So I'm a very stupid
accessory to murder would have been appropriate then.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny and it's laughable, but like at the same time, I hope that young cops that read my book will be like, holy shit, like, because I was trying to be a cool cop, because I was trying to be a nice guy. I mean, I could be dead. My 5 children could be raised by my wife by herself, and that wouldn't be fair because I wanted to be nice, because I wanted the public to think I was one of the quote unquote good ones.
Speaking of you being a nice guy, let's talk about the frat boy that decides to hang out. It was around like the 700 block of Martin, right?
Well, I don't use the correct anything in the book.
So people,
but if you really want to be specific about it, I think it was on Davie. It was those white apartments on Lenore or Davie. I can't remember.
So it's near downtown Raleigh in the southeast part. So once you're leaving downtown, for those that are not familiar with Raleigh, downtown, especially now, is very nice. You've got lots of bars and restaurants, some nice hotels.
Gentrified.
Right. But especially when this happened, there was almost like a border where it became downtown to open air drug market, heavy gang neighborhoods. And this was around, most people are familiar with like the 700 block of Martin. You said it was on Davie, which I'm sure that's correct.
Okay. Well, like just since do you know where those white apartments are? I believe it's either on Davie or Lenore, but it's on Rock Quarry Road, which was right next to Martin Street. But it's where I forgot the guy's name now, but it's where he lived. He was like the head fucking gang dude. He lived in those it's 2 stories and there's like 6 on the top and 6 on the bottom. It's like right at Rock Quarry and like Davie or Rock Quarry and Lenore. But anyway, it's like really bad spot. It was in that music video from P.D. Pablo, Rise Up, Raise Up, Take Your Shirt Off. It was one of those locations in that music video.
But regardless, this is a crappy area, and this
Very
is
bad.
At night, where you should absolutely not be if you're not from that neighborhood. And this kid is wearing, I believe you described him as wearing a salmon colored polo or something.
Yeah, pink. Yeah, salmony pink. Yeah.
All right. So Mr. Nice Friendly Eric sees this guy who obviously does not fit in. I believe it was, you described it in the book as a 911 call was given.
Yeah.
Which is very
suspect.
nice. Right. So you've got this preppy white kid in the middle of the hood, and this is at night after the bars have let out. And luckily, Eric rolls up. Can you tell us what happened about that?
Yeah. By the way, that was where Rah Rah and Tequila Peoples lived. That little white. That's the apartment I'm talking about.
So nice citizens from Southeast Raleigh.
Well, but one's dead and the other one's in prison. Rah Rah's dead now. But anyway, which he's also in that PD Pablo video. He's that little kid with Darius Welcher sitting on the steps. They're the two little kids sitting on the steps. Darius is in prison for life, I believe. And Rah Rah's dead now. But anyway, that's just a fun fact. But anyway, yeah, so this kid, it's very bad spot. Very, very notorious bad. And so this kid, this college nerd, is sitting there with his tucked in salmon colored polo into his khaki shorts and his Sperry tennis shoes. And it was a 911 call, a suspicious white guy wearing exactly that. And so I was thinking in my brain, I'm like, holy shit. Like, one, this guy's probably going to be dead when I get there, or he's going to be completely robbed and, maybe raped or something pretty bad. But like, I'm going to go because whatever it is, it's going to be fucking, I got to hear the whole story. And I get there and it's literally just this drunk white guy. And I don't want to give too much away for the book, but basically I become a taxi service for this young man and I drop him off. I won't say where I dropped him off. I'll let you read the book, but I drop him off at a safe location and he inevitably disappears and becomes a missing person for a long time. Not a long time, long enough. You can read about it in the book. And then of course they do find him and he's dead. And I was the last person with him. And so I, in the book, have to explain to detectives, like in painstaking detail, and I had to find witnesses, and we had to go and pull video camera surveillance footage to show that I didn't fucking kill this kid. But yes, he ends up dying. He ends up, I don't want to give up too much because I think that's a fun story to read in the book. It's a real whodunit part of the book, but he dies, and I'm like the number one suspect, and I'm a cop. And it sucks because it's like, everybody, like up until that point, it was like 2 or 3 months where it was just like, remember the guy, like this was in that time frame. Remember the guy that got shot on behind our station in that neighborhood, and he'd gotten shot like in the armpit, and the blood was just like draining out of him like a fucking water faucet. And I think they wrote him down as a white male, but he was actually a black guy, but he'd lost so much blood that they thought he was white. It was back there behind Crosslink somewhere.
Yeah, and I definitely remember this going out, and there was a lot of, I believe it was, normally when you have a missing person, it's like, okay, here's a bolo that goes out to the department at roll call, you talk about it, but it had gotten to the point where I believe the news had gotten a handle of it because they knew that he had left the downtown area, and I remember, again, like Eric being called into IA and just thinking, oh shit, like this is not good. And I knew that Eric had, is not going to murder someone, but, explaining that to IA, that cannot be a fun time. But let's talk about another fun time, because I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, that's a fun story though. Spoiler alert, I didn't murder him.
And I don't want to give away too much of this one either, but you breaking your leg.
Yeah. There's
a lot of comedy in that one as well, too. Can we kind of go through some of the details of that? Not too much, don't want to give away everything. You've got to buy the book.
I mean, well, we'll just fast forward to the funny parts. And Abby, if you have questions along the way, you're more than welcome to ask anything you want. I don't care. But
Cameron's not giving me a chance to say anything.
Go ahead. I feel like you have a question about this one.
Yeah, I have a comment when you get there.
Well, I'll just set the stage really quick. Like, basically, I have a ride along with me, wants to be a cop, and we get a call, and he really wants to go to this call, but it's very far away. We end up going to the call just so he can see what a crime scene looks like. And lo and behold, as Eric's golden horseshoe or black cloud, whatever one you want to call it, we end up coming in contact with the suspect, even though we're miles and miles away. And it was like the chances of him taking the same roads that we took to get there are like 1 in 100. We end up getting in a car chase with this guy, and I end up getting into a fight with the guy, and I end up breaking my leg pretty severely. And Santana is there on scene while I have this suspect down on the ground, and it's pretty chaotic because one person's got their neck cut wide open, is bleeding everywhere. Another cop's got a broken arm. I've got a broken leg. He drove his car up onto another cop car's. He drove his car through another cop car up and through the windshield. So we thought we had a dead cop on scene as well. So it was like very chaotic scene by the time Santana got there.
Abby, do you have any questions so far about this?
Well, I mean, what I love are some of the comments, like when the ride along started, Gary was black, but now he's white as snow. You know, and the thing is, when you've got a ride along and you end up in this dangerous situation, he had to run. I mean, it's kind of like having a rookie. You know, you have to protect this other person, so you're now distracted. But I did want to get to the part where Cameron, known as Jace, starts to cut off all your clothes.
Yes.
I want to actually clarify that too, because I pointed Eric out something that he kind of forgot, is that Eric's leg was pointing in the wrong direction. So we had not only Eric is hurt, but Red in the book, she's bleeding. Eric described it perfectly. We were wondering, like, how did someone survive that wreck? Because the guy took his vehicle and tried to ram her. And so we go to the hospital, and I'm staying with Eric because I'm essentially his gun.
This is a line that I love.
Right. And they've given him.
Let her read it. Let her read the line.
In the book here.
Hang on. Let her read the line.
Go ahead. Read the line.
They're about to dope up Tansey, and he can't have a gun while they do it. Secure his gun, then ride with him in the ambulance. You are now his gun. Don't leave his side until you are relieved. And Eric writes, I hope someone tells me I'm a gun someday.
Yeah. Like, I remember being like, fuck, that's pretty badass. Like, I want to be somebody's gun one day. Like, that's really
I love that line.
Cool.
Yeah, but they had given Eric a morphine or a fentanyl lollipop on the way over there. And here's one of the details I wish you would put in there. But when we were in the trauma room, I was trying to get his gun and like his police stuff off, his duty belt, because he's not allowed to have that. So that's why I would stay with him, right? But again, leg is pointing in the other direction. What does the nurse have to do? Remove his boot. And so she starts cutting the boot, and Eric is like, what the fuck? Why are you? These are brand new boots. And that's why I was like, you fucking idiot. She's got to get your boot off to fix your leg. So that's why I decided to make the decision to grab another pair of scissors. And
He says,
started cutting the other boot.
Jace's eyes light up at the sight of the shears. He starts cutting my shirt. And Eric's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you cutting my shirt? And you're like, just let this happen. We're fixing you, bro. And
I was really trying to distract him from everything that was going on, because I'm sure that he was.
Yeah, and he was like yelling at me for being ungrateful. He was like, shh, just let this happen. You're being. Go ahead.
Great. Jace grabs a handful of my clip-on tie and looks me right in the eyes. And before I can say another word, he cuts the clip-on in half. I want to know what is up with the clip-on tie, dude. You keep cutting his tie.
Yeah, that's Jason saying. And so he cut my tie in half.
Why?
I mean, he'd cut everything. He'd cut like my belt off. He cut my pants off. He cut my shirt, and then he cut the tie. He just wouldn't stop cutting shit. And I'm yelling at him the whole time. But I guess there's like fucking 3 doctors like working on my leg. And
they were going to set his leg. And I remember one of the doctors was like, he looked at me and he was like, this is going to hurt.
Oh, that is the worst pain I've ever felt.
I was like, okay, like I'm just going to try to do anything I can to distract him. That's why I was like, I just started fucking with him, because that's how, so I know how to make people.
Yeah.
I'm sure it didn't help.
And so then, a year later, when I got in the fight with the gay guy, my clip-on tie had come off during the fight. It was in the middle of the road. and Santana brought it to the ambulance and he had cut it in half, which is a huge pain in the ass because you have to go back to property and hand them a fucking tie, and you can't rat your buddy out and be like, oh, my buddy cut my tie in half, I need a new one, because now he's going to get in trouble. So I have to come up with some fucking audacious, ridiculous, and I suck at lying. So now I got to fucking lie to these people of how my tie gets cut in half for the second time.
I'm sure. You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for your service.
Well,
yeah, it was
service.
Also, you can also call this bad luck with ride-alongs, because between your mom and then they try to retain Gary. Gary shows up on scene and he's like, wait, I'm the ride-along.
Yeah, so like Gary, this black guy, comes showing up with a bulletproof vest on through this sea of cops. Right. You know what I mean? And in civilian clothes. So they're just like, who is this guy and why is it? So they detain him and everything. And he's like, no, I'm with Tansey. And they're like, what do you mean you're with Tansey? You know what I mean? And then I had forgotten. So
yeah, you forgot your mother.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's crazy what you'll forget when you're fighting for your life. It is pretty funny, but yeah.
So Cameron, I don't know what story you want to tell next, but I just got to get this comment in. As I told you in the beginning, it's like if you remember from Star Trek, the trouble with tribbles. I feel like this is the trouble with Tansey, all these stories. And I wrote to Cameron, in general, there's a lot of fence jumping. And is that typical or is that Tansey? There are a lot of fights. Is that typical or is that Tansey? So you write the fence jumping is like, there are many of them. Some of them you do acrobatically and some of them don't go so well. So
no, and like, that's not probably like, I don't even think I put I don't even think I put a quarter of the fence jumping in the book. Like, I mean, that's probably something that happens on a weekly basis. I mean, we're always jumping fences for almost every call because you have to get into people's backyards and everybody has a fence and it's Southeast Raleigh. So everybody's got a fucking pit bull. But we jump fences just about every shift. I mean, maybe not necessarily chasing somebody, but like to get into a house to, we jump fences a lot.
I thought that was just TV. I mean,
no.
And then the fights, I mean, to be beaten, but one of the comments I wanted to make, especially because you covered this last week on Failure to Stop, but a lot of times fights are the least, it looks to a civilian like excessive force, but really what it is the least amount of force to control a situation, right?
I mean, like, would you rather me punch your loved one in the face to get them to obey me, or do you want me to shoot them?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, for me, I do Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu every week and I get punched in the face. I get punched. I mean, I spend 2 hours a day, 3 to 4 days a week with somebody legit trying to choke me the fuck out. I mean, they choke me out all the time. I get choked out. Literally, I get choked out 3 days a week. Maybe not unconscious, but like to the point of like, you know what I mean? So like, I know that you're not going to die from me punching you because I'm still alive and I've been being punched in the head for like 25 years now. And I think that that once you allow people, when you empower people, the more power you give them to disobey, the more they're going to disobey. And that's going to lead to you having to kill them inevitably. But if I can take that fight out of you really fast by punching you, by slamming you down on the ground and it's over, well, then there's a lot less, if I let you run and you get hit by a car, whose fault is it?
All right.
Well, it's mine because I didn't do my job and detain you. Now, legally, it's not my fault. It's your fault. But like in my brain, I'm always going to be like, man, this 17-year-old kid would still be alive if I wouldn't have been such a pussy. If I would have just grabbed him and not cared what the public thinks.
All right.
I would have just put him in handcuffs. I knew he was going to run, but I was so worried about what the public was going to think or how I was going to articulate that to the public. But like, and that's the other thing about being a police officer is that people think that you're on a power trip and that you want to get in a fight. I don't need to want to get in a fight. A fight will find me. A fight will find me every fucking day. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to get out of all of these because they hurt me every day. Like that's paperwork that I have to do every day. That's busted up knees. Like I've been in fights as a cop where both my knees are just completely scabbed over because I got down on my knees and wrestled with a dude to try to get him in handcuffs. Well, like it might not have been that sexy of a fight. Like it wasn't like UFC style punching fights, but like you have a guy that doesn't want to be put in handcuffs. You're on your knees on the hard asphalt and you're doing this, that, and that. And then your knees are bloody from just being on the, wasn't anything awesome, but now you have scabs. And then guess what? Tomorrow, somebody wants to roll around on the ground and fight you. Well, you think those scabs went away from the night before, or do you think they're going to bust back open? And when they bust back open the second time, they're going to hurt even more, and you're going to have even more of a scar. Same with your elbows. Same with your knuckles. You know what I mean? Like we all, like a lot of good street cops will have scarred knuckles, elbows, and knees because of all these stupid, petty little fights. So it's not like we want to be in them. Like they're not fun for us. And what do we get out of them? Like all you need to do is win one and your ego is boosted. I don't need to win 50. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not like we want to be in those fights.
Right. No, but I mean, it just was shocking to me. I've never been hit. I've never hit anyone. So it's just the idea is, you know, and people need to understand what cops go through.
I mean, it's a shock too. Like if you've never been hit in the face, and I think that's the problem with America is there's too many people that haven't been, and there's too many cops that haven't been hit in the face. There's a lot happens. There's a lot of psychology behind getting hit in the face. There's a lot of things that psychologically happen during, after, even before you get hit in the face. There's, you know, a psychological aspect. And so I don't know. I mean, I encourage you to go get punched in the face. I think everybody should experience it. Do Muay Thai, do some kind of kickboxing, and just put yourself out there and be vulnerable for a minute. It does change your perspective on life. And I think if you've been punched in the face as many times as I have, it makes you that much more of a pacifist. You know what I mean? Like you'll never see me commit road rage. You'll never see me get involved in somebody else's bullshit in the store. I mean, sometimes to a fault, like my wife would be like, did you just like, that guy's yelling at that woman over there. Like, don't you want to like go and like make sure she's all right? And I was like, no, not really. I don't really want to get involved. I mean, she can walk away. She can run. Like she's got legs. Like if she's standing there, that's on her. You know what I mean? And that's probably not the right way to do things. And like my wife usually talks me into like getting involved, or at least like standing by to make sure nothing happens. But you know, it's against my nature to want to. Like I'm kind of callous. I'm like, I don't want to get punched in the face. And like I don't want to get stabbed or shanked, or I'm not the one that pissed that guy off.
So Cameron, I hope I didn't.
Oh no.
Where do you want to go next?
Erica, one of the things that you mentioned in the book, and this is another story that I remember, is we'll call it the deaf girl story.
Yeah.
So to set the scene, we've got an overpass, and there is a young girl that wants to commit suicide by jumping into traffic, and she is deaf. And that is having people that speak or know sign language is a skill that not a lot of people have in the department. And Eric, so they're calling over the radio for someone that knows sign language. And Eric, you actually answer up.
Yeah, actually, I think that because when I applied for the Raleigh Police Department, it said foreign languages and I wrote American Sign Language. So I had gotten a message that on my MCT that says like, hey, your application says you speak American Sign Language. Can you key up on the radio? Because I was talking to Johan about a domestic. So I never heard the actual original call go out, I think. And so then I did key up the radio and was like, hey, I know sign language. But that's how I found out, really, was through some kind of a message at first.
Okay. But regardless, you go to the scene, and can you describe what it looked like when you first got there?
Yeah, I mean, there's cops on both sides of a bridge over an overpass, chick standing out there by herself, hostage negotiators, whatever, just, you know, everybody that wanted to be involved. Because I don't know, anytime that somebody was like a little bit of higher rank in the Raleigh Police Department, when there's a big profile case, they show up because they want to get that attaboy. They want to get on the plaque. They want to touch the bear. So there was like some people from the downtown district, lieutenant wise and stuff that were there that were pretty annoying. But when all you need is the Southeast Raleigh cops, like that's all you really need. But we had other people there, and I got out there to the bridge, and they were like, yeah, you know, sign language, and can you go out there and talk to her? And Of course, in the book, it's a lot funnier than that, because it's like I'm the last guy that like our sergeant once. He's like, fuck.
He's like, don't fuck this up.
Like if everybody that we could get there, like we have to send this guy out. Like the one dude
that's
that
what I was getting to is that you've got a lot of people that are looking at this with probably, okay, this is, I'm not saying everyone's like this, but there's definitely some upper echelon. They're thinking this is one of those incidents that can get me some prestige. This can get me in a newsletter or some type of medal. And then you've got Tansey who shows up, who's already been involved in a bunch of, stuff, we'll call it. And you're really the last ray of hope for everyone.
Yeah. And I mean, all eyes are on us. Like there's a helicopter in the air. The news is there. State troopers are there. Wake County Sheriff. I mean, like it's the who's who of incidents. And like my sergeant's like, it's like the guy that can't hit. And that's who you have left when you're down by one and you've got bases loaded and it's a full count. Like I'm not the guy you want swinging the bat because I suck at sports. And that's the guy that they have to send out onto this bridge because I know sign language and it's not easy. And it was a pretty tough time, but we got through it. Maybe not. But yeah. What did you want to know about it? Do you want me to tell the story?
I think that, I think
questions about
save the story for the book. And
you guys can ask questions. I mean, if you know the story and you want to know certain things, I can tell you.
Well, I think that you were you talk about you being the last person, but really you get out there and you're so real with her. You're like, you got to help me. All eyes are on me. I don't remember sign language that well. Can you slow down? But I think that what you minimize is that you engaged with her and she, and any other cop that walked up, she was probably going to jump, so give yourself some credit, I think, for getting on her level. And you guys even started laughing, I think. Right. Yeah. And she's telling you, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she was getting so well. Like one chin was foul because she like went to sign and she went and she caught herself. And man, that's when I was like, I wanted to throw up because I was like, Jesus Christ, like this is the worst case scenario. Like this isn't jokesy. This isn't like fake. Like this is real. Like this isn't a baseball game. This is, if she dies, one, I'll never be able to live with it. But two, like, I don't know if I could go back to work. Like one, my sergeant, everybody's going to be, it's the consequences were the highest that they could be. She's a 14-year-old girl. She's deaf. And you have all this traffic. It would have, like, the whole world would have seen this. Like it became very real. And I mean, I wanted to throw up. I mean, I was trying not to throw up. Like my mouth was salivating. I can remember, I could just remember like the whole world spinning. I felt like I was drunk for a second. And then everything I'd said or tried to do for like the first 30 minutes was just not working at all. And I knew I was about to lose her. Like, I think she was getting annoyed. I was getting annoyed. Well, I wasn't annoyed. I was panicking. I think she was getting annoyed and like fight or flight was kicking in. She didn't know really what to do. And so finally I was like, listen, like, you got to help me. Like, I'm fucking retarded. And she was like, what? And I was like, look, I am dumb. And I was like using some pretty vulgar sign language that I knew. And that confused her for a second. She's like, what do you talk? Like, what do you mean? Like, you're dumb. Like, what do you mean? And I was just like, look, dude, if you kill yourself, like, I'm fucked. Like, and I was just like, I just told her straight up. I was like, look, I'm like, my wife's like going to leave me. Like, I'm going to fucking be depressed for the rest of my life. Like, these cops are going to hate me. And like, I get it. You're going through some shit, but like, I'm not asking you to fucking save yourself for you. Like, can you help me out? Is there some way you can help me out? And like ends up becoming this like whole conversation, where she actually like felt sorry for me. Then I felt like very selfish in the moment. Like, oh, way to make it all about you, Eric.
Well, you got her to open up to you and what was going on with her mother and going on at school. And, I don't know how much you want to talk about, but
I will tell you this is insider information. And Jace, you may not even know this, and maybe you don't remember this story or not. Jace was serving a warrant about 2 years later at a hotel for a pervert. And we knocked on the door, and this white guy wearing whitey tighties and no shirt opened the door, and you had covered up the peephole. And it was, I think, me and maybe Eric Scott. And I was just there coming in late. I didn't really know. I just knew that you had a warrant for some pervert, for some sex crime. And when the guy opened the door, you grabbed him and you slammed him into the wall, and he had a boner. And we were all making fun of him. Like, how do you still have a boner after getting slammed into the wall? And when we went into the room, the deaf girl was in the room, and this guy was like 39 and she was probably 16 or 17. They were watching Nick at Night, Nick Jr. or something like Nick Jr.
I remember this. Yeah.
And, but that was her, Chase, on the bed.
You know what's funny about that? And this is what was hard about reading the book, why it took me so damn long, is because I would start reading the book and then start remembering these stories. And a lot of them you just don't think about until someone's actually telling, you them. Kind of like that one that you just told about where the guy was with her in the hotel. Now that you bring that up, I absolutely remember that happening.
Yeah.
Well, and her mother was pimping her out.
Her mother was pimping her out.
Yes.
So, and I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I made the comment, and I was afraid because I think we had body cams on. And I was afraid that was going to come up. I never brought it up because I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to get in trouble. But I literally said on body camera, I said, fuck, I should have let her jump.
To get her out of that life.
Yeah. I mean, seems like life wasn't any better. Now she's fucking some 39-year-old dude. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if she's fucking her or not, but I mean, I don't remember the whole story. And it wasn't my case to work. I just remember that we arrested him for being a pervert. She was the girl in the room. I don't think she was 18. I know that he was like 39 and they were watching Nick Jr. And
yeah, and that's one of the problems with trafficking women, and we could do an entire episode on this, is that they prey on vulnerable populations like that. And whether it's,
but they got away with it because the mom knew about it, but then the mom said that was actually her boyfriend or something like that.
It was some messed up story, I remember.
Yeah,
but regardless,
we ended up having to drop the whole case. Yeah, like we had to drop the whole case, and which I was fine with dropping, but like, still to this day that makes me sick to my stomach because the department allowed that mom to put makeup on and dress them up in front of the whole country and put her on national news. People in California were writing me mail that saw that story. Deaf people that saw that story in California had gotten our department's address and were sending letters. Like, it was national news, and they'll never know the story that the mom was actually really a piece of shit, but the department even helped make her look like a good person. And so how is a lonely street officer going to change that narrative or change that story? And then the fact that the mom prostituted her out 2 years later, we know that, but then the detectives were like, drop it. That was actually her boyfriend, and the statutory rape works different when it's consensual, and they tried to make it into something that like they try to change the whole narrative, and then what can you do? You know what I mean?
When they tried to take this story and make you your officer of the year, they wanted to get you to do all this media because it would make
that's the reason why I wouldn't do it.
Right. Well, and you said you didn't want to make a news story out of this girl's one of the worst days of her life. And
it's you've got this 15-year-old, 14-year-old child who is already, the reason why she was jumping was because she was embarrassed that she had to go to a regular school now, and she has this cochlear implant. She feels ugly, so she had a phone. She was texting boys, but she was pretending to be a hearing person. And so she knew she could never even meet these boys because she's got this big giant fucking thing on her head, as she describes it. And they're going to think she's ugly. So her family didn't speak sign language. She goes to a school that nobody speaks sign language now. She's separated from all of her deaf friends. Her mom's out buying crack. The kids are starving, hungry. Her brothers have to go knock on neighbors' doors to get food. All of this shit. And now they want to, immediately take her mom, dress her up in makeup, put her like in a hotel room or something that looks nice, and give this whole story that that this girl is being abused by text messaging technology, which is only bringing more shame to herself, because that's not why she wanted to kill herself. Had nothing to do with that. And but our department, to make themselves look good, ran this narrative knowing the mom is a crack whore, knowing the dad's a fucking in prison, knowing all of these horrific things, and knowing the truth about why she wanted, and they chose to embarrass her publicly anyway, so that the department could get an attaboy, is fucking disgusting. And I was ashamed to be a part of the program, and I was ashamed to be a part of the publicity stunt. And that's why I didn't wear my uniform when they forced me to go in public. And that's why I didn't give my name to the media. And that's why I didn't accept the reward. And I still to this day don't know where that reward. I mean, somebody found the reward that I left in a car that was going to an auction, and they gave it back to me, and I still don't know where. I re-lost it again. I hopefully it's gone forever now, because I threw it away. But I don't keep that award around, because that was a very shameful thing that the department did. Now, had the department got her real help, fucking got those kids CPS, got that mom rehabilitated, went above and beyond to get this girl some form of way, an interpreter of some kind, whatever, I'd be proud to be a part of that story. And I'd be proud to wear my uniform and tell you that story. But that's not what happened. We saved a girl's life that day, and we put her into a very shitty situation, knowing that we were putting her in a shitty situation, but the public would perceive it better if we just rewrote the narrative just a little bit. And so, I mean, yeah, I fucking hate that story.
Well, and I don't know where you want to go, Cameron, but this is also kind of the beginning of the end for you.
Yeah. I didn't want to be a cop anymore after that. I really didn't. I mean, I don't know. The politics had already kind of gotten to me. And I knew I wasn't going to be a cop for 30 years anyway. And I think I made that very apparently clear in the book. And I want everybody to know this. I have a huge respect for guys like Santana, Dave Green, Richard Sirianna, Captain Buddy Young, all these other great cops that went the distance 30 years. I knew that I wasn't cut out to do 30 years of policing. I wouldn't trade those 6 or 7 years for anything in the world. And I think that, everybody should, that wants to be a cop, you should pursue it. I don't think everybody needs to be a cop. But I think everybody should do a ride along at least once in their life.
Agreed.
But yeah, I have a huge respect for cops that can do the job, and it's just not for me. And somebody's got to play the politics though. Somebody has to do it, or there would be no cops. I just wasn't built with the intestinal fortitude to tolerate the injustices of higher management, especially when higher management is literally making the world a worse place.
So this is a good point to bring up, or a good segment to bring up, is that, so you've got these feelings that are going on where, you're obviously not happy about what's going on. And at some point you decide to open up a distillery in Clayton, North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give it away too much.
Okay.
And because there's a lot of detail. And again, people have to buy the book. It's available right now for pre-order on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you can buy books. So please go and get it. And
by the way, we're telling these stories very seriously right now. In the book, they're very funny.
Right. And that's what I enjoy about the book, is it's not, as you would describe it, as dead babies and domestic violence. There's a lot of times in the book, actually the majority of the time of the book, you're poking fun of yourself, and you bring a lot of humor to really talk about these serious situations, which I think that is one of the huge strengths of the book. But when you're leaving, obviously you would probably wanted to leave with some grace, and like most people would want to leave, you give your 2-week notice and everyone throws you a goodbye party, and the chief shakes your hand, tells you thank you for your service, and maybe you even leave with a plaque. Did the chief give you a plaque when you left?
No, they made me leave in disgrace and shame me, and they went above and beyond to try to go through body camera footage and to find anything and everything they could, even though if it wasn't relevant to anything and it wasn't, and then just punish me unreasonably. And it was very obvious to everyone, and it brought the morale, I think, across the squad very low. I mean, I talked to other of my squad mates, and then, they say like that was the turning point for them and the careers when they watched them take somebody like me, who was always happy to be at work, who worked very hard, who didn't play politics, who wasn't trying to get promoted, who literally just went to work every day and tried their hardest, to have the department find the smallest thing that they could possibly find. And, they made me go to anger management, as a punishment, so much so that the anger management company cut their contract because they were like, one, like, you're like the third cop that they've done this to, but like there's zero evidence that you have anger issues. Zero. The department can't even articulate. And we've gone through all of these cases. We've gone through so many of these things. And it's like they're literally just sent you to us just because they can. And that's so disgustingly wrong. And the company was extremely apologetic, because I cooperated with everything. And they just were like, this is terrible. Like, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty terrible. It's pretty embarrassing too. Like, for a guy who doesn't, I mean, I don't know. Was I ever angry? Did I have anger problems, Jace?
No, I don't think you had anger problems. There's a lot of comedic moments, and especially early on in your career, people would mess with you and whatnot, as it happens in most squads. But definitely, I'd completely agree that the way that they handled that whole situation was not appropriate. And you're absolutely right. When people see that that's how you treat someone, you were a go-getter. And you'll see that in the book. Like Abby was saying, there's several times in this book where you're stopping cars, you're chasing people through neighborhoods, and you don't have to do that. Some officers will go and they'll find places to hide when they don't have a call, or they'll have the call and then stay out on it to write the report for an hour instead of taking that next one because they want to get off on time. You were never like that, and that's something that you should be proud of. And
I learned it from you. So, learned it from my training officer.
Well, hopefully those first 9
yeah,
weeks.
It was yeah, it's just, and I think that's another great part of the book, because I don't get too serious about that in the book. I do it in a comedic way, but that's why I don't like internal affairs. And I'll probably have more to say later on in life about internal affairs, depending on how they react to my book. I'll be very interested to see how the Raleigh Police Department reacts to the book, and if it's fair and they understand like their strengths and weaknesses. I do a lot in the book of making Raleigh PD look very, very good. And then in the parts where they need help, I make that obvious as well. And I think they can either learn from those things from the book, or they can, let me bring up some other stories, that I didn't put in the book, because I didn't want to make them look like the sole bad guy. But I mean, it's politics, and it's very ugly politics. And I think that when you become internal affairs and you become other ranks in our department, it no longer becomes about serving the public. It comes to be about serving yourself and climbing the corporate ladder. And they lose sight of that. And that was the point I was trying to make in the book when I told a few of those stories in a comedic way, was that like, at some point, you guys aren't cops anymore. You're just politicians, and it's disgusting. And what you did with that girl on the bridge is a perfect example of you putting politics over people. And I was a street cop at that time. I was at the height of my police career as a street cop. And so for me, the public was what I was there for, and I really did feel like a knight in shining armor to those people. Like, I felt like every day that I put on that shield, that, that I was carrying the shield of Christ or whatever, like not in a crusader way, but, I thought I was going to be there to make a difference in people's lives. And I took it very seriously, and I prayed very hard. And I don't, I mentioned it in the book, but one of the things I want to be very clear is that while I was a cop, man, I prayed every single night to God to help me. And my prayer would be simply like, Lord God, don't let me miss the call. And the call wasn't, a shooting or a stabbing or a sexy foot chase. Like, what I meant by that was like, help me not to drive by that car that has a busted tire and it's 95 degrees outside. And it would be easy for me just to like put my blinders on and drive away. Like, help me to go to the call that you want me to go to, whether it's changing somebody's flat tire on the side of the road, whether it's driving somebody to a homeless camp that I don't want to. Like, help me not to be annoyed by these people. Like, help me to truly want to serve them selflessly. And that was my prayer. It was a very selfless prayer. I wasn't praying to like, Lord, help me to, take down hostage rescue and like, help me to join the SWAT team. And, like, that was never my prayer. My prayer was always like, whoever needs Eric Tansey, like, you put them in front of me today, and then help me not to have such an ego that I'm too good for that call, essentially. And so because I prayed that and I was self-aware of that prayer, it was hard for me to bypass any call, because I felt like, oh, what if this is the call that God wants me to go to? Like, what if this is the one where, this person needs a ride, or if I didn't change their tire, they would have gotten squished by a semi truck or whatever. And so like, I always felt like, to be honest, in my prayer, I needed to make sure that I went to all of these calls, and I did all these calls. And I think maybe that's why inevitably I got caught up in so much heinous shit, was because of probably just by the sheer number of calls, right?
Now we know to blame God for
thanks,
being
God.
a shit.
Thank you, God.
I think that really comes through in the book. Eric, there is a lot of humor, but a lot of self-deprecation. I think you're far more humble than people. They hear you and they see you and they think you talk loudly and you're bigger than life, but you really, at the end of the day, have a big heart. And I think that really comes through. And I think you were a great cop.
Oh, thank you.
And see, now I'm going to cry, Cameron. I think it was a shame that they did that to you and that they lost a good cop.
But thanks, Abby.
But as you look back, you spent 6-7 years as a cop, and now you've gotten to take those stories and share them. And you're still teaching. You're still teaching people on failure to stop, but you're teaching cops how to be safe. You're teaching civilians what it's like to be a police officer. So, I didn't want to.
Thanks.
I didn't.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, my time as a cop, I became a huge fan of cops when I stopped being a cop. When I left law enforcement, I love to watch the videos of cops still doing cop shit. I love hearing all the stories. Like, I felt like when BLM was happening, I felt like, here is my chance to like help my brothers out that are being made fun of, that are getting blasted. Like, I know Jace personally. Like, I know his heart. I've seen the kind things that Jace does. I mean, there's another SWAT officer in the book that I don't really speak all that highly of in the book. I don't talk shit about him, but like the stories, the few stories I incorporate of him, they're probably not his favorite stories. But one of the stories I would love to tell is like, I watched this guy track down a prostitute's child that he found out she had a child, and found out that this child was living basically in hiding with this old ass man that was not her grandfather. And he and I underground found out that this guy's not a pervert. He's not a creeper. It's just a selfless old man that fucked a prostitute, and she left this kid at his house and never returned. And it changed his life. Wow. And I don't think he bangs prostitutes anymore, but I think he made some kind of conscious. So we went over there to basically arrest this guy and try to kidnap this girl. And, he put his career on the line. I put my career on the line, and we navigated our way through this very weird thing. And it was a secret, still a secret to this day. I'll never say like who it was or what the call was, but I don't know how many years he did it, but he would, for Thanksgiving, buy turkeys and stuff like that. And nobody knew about this. And this is a girl being raised by a white girl, being raised by a black man that's in no relation to her. And her mother just basically was a prostitute to this guy. And he's old man, and left her kid there. And that changed his life. And he basically lives to try to make this girl have the most normal life. I have no idea where they're at to this day. I don't know if that's a success story, but I know that when it happened, I was like, this cop is a complete asshole to me in a lot more ways than one. But this dude behind with nobody knowing, is buying Christmas presents and Thanksgiving dinner for something he could probably get fired for that story. Like, I don't know if there's a law that says you have to tell CPS that a child's been, I don't know, but like, I know that this cop had been doing this in secret for a very long time. There's another cop that I know that we busted some shoplifters at Rose's, and he paid for that whole bill and made a deal with the management that if they trespass, if he paid for their bill, would he be able to trespass them and not charge them with, misdemeanor theft or felony theft, And so, all of these cops are selfless servants, and they're on their own journey. And I don't know that I met a single cop in the Southeast Raleigh, maybe one. But I don't know that, out of the 30 or 45 cops that are just in the Southeast Raleigh alone on our squad or attached to our squad in one way or another, I don't know that I met any that were not on their own religious journey to make the world a better place. Whether they were Mormons, Muslims, whether they were Christians, I felt like just about everybody that we had on the squad they had a calling from God to be there. They saw God in a different way. They self-deprecated themselves. A lot of these guys in the book even have thought about suicide from one time or another, have had their battles with their demons. And, you read the book and you're like, wow, these are the best guys on the planet that you were surrounded by. But like, I also know them in their darkest areas. Like, I know them in their darkest points of their careers. And one of the guys that read this book, like, he called me, he says he bawled for, 25 minutes straight, and his wife had to hold him. And it was like 25 years of therapy, like, that was in these books. And it's like, he said that, like, he never really took the time to realize everything that he had done. And he always felt like he was kind of a shitty person. But when he reads it in my book, he realized that he's not a shitty person. He's a hero. Like, really, you really are, Jace. I know you don't want to hear it, but like, you guys really are what these kids that play cops and robbers, like, that's the guy that's sitting right here, Jace. That's him. Like, that's the guy that you're pretending to be. That those little kids, like my sons, when they're playing out in the yard and they're playing cops and robbers, cops and bad guys, like, they're him. They're Santana. They're Cameron. They're Jace. That's who they're playing. And so I am the cops' biggest fans. And so the excitement that I get now is being able to go on the road and tell their stories and be cops' biggest advocates for people like you, Abby. And I think that's why we became so close, because you were doing the same thing as a civilian during the BLM shit. You know what I mean? And that's all I want people to see, is that, like, dude, these guys they're really fucking heroes on being a police officer. Like, these guys are doing this shit, and they didn't just do it for 6 years like I did. Like, they didn't just like dabble, you know what I mean? Like, they fucking, they made their whole lives about it. Like, that's their identity. And that's so cool. Good for them.
Yes. Well, there's clearly been a path for you, I mean, how old were you when you were a cop? Like, in your 20s?
28.
And you're about 41 now?
And I was 36 when I left. So yeah, it was like 8 years of, like, from start to finish, my career would have been like 8 years. But like, you have the academy lumped in there and a bunch of other shit. So as a street cop, solidly is 6 years.
But what would Eric Tansey of today tell Eric Tansey at 20 something?
Ooh, I mean, if I had to go back right now until 27 something, just stay the course, dude. Just keep doing it. Like, just keep doing what you're doing, because, and I don't want to sound like pretentious here, but I had no aspirations at 27 of being a cop. When I became a cop, it was because it was really the only thing I could do at the time to make any money. But like, I didn't have any goals. My goal wasn't to be SWAT. My goal wasn't to be detective. My goal wasn't to be canine. I didn't have any goals. And I think that's what makes Santana so great as a cop too. Or as like Bruno in the book. I think the one thing that all the stars of the book have in common were that none of them asked for what they have. They literally earned it. And I think that's what makes my story special, was because I didn't try to take myself down a path as a police officer. God just kind of did it because my brain wasn't, it probably doesn't make sense. My brain didn't have an end goal. So I was literally just walking down paths that opened up for me. And I think that's what, and I think Santana's done the whole thing with that way with his career. Like Santana's never locked down, like, this is what I want to be. And then he went for it. He just kind of shows up every day and just be's a cop. And Bruno, he was canine. He was canine before he became a cop. So that road was kind of set for him, but he didn't have he never left being a canine. So he's been a canine for what, 25 years, 24 years?
I believe he just retired, actually, or he's about to retire.
Yeah. So this dude's done nothing but that his whole career. He didn't try to go for sergeant. He didn't go for detective. He literally spent his whole life as a street cop canine guy. His whole career and Red, she got out of policing fairly quickly. I think sooner than I did.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. She only did maybe 5 years, maybe.
Yeah. She got into probation and she ended up moving to Michigan.
Yeah. Cause she got in another fight while she was pregnant. And I think she got scared, not scared, but she was like, I can't be the cop I want to be and have a baby. Right. I think, right? Is that, I mean, I'll let her tell those stories. I don't really know the whole story of why Red left.
Well, let's talk about you leaving. And so you leave, and then you had this distillery, which again is covered in the book. And there's some struggles and a lot of hardship with opening up that, especially on your family.
Yeah.
Because now you don't have a paycheck.
Yeah, I didn't have a paycheck.
And you don't have insurance.
Didn't have insurance. The department didn't pay me my sick leave or the vacation time they paid me the vacation. They didn't pay me my sick days, and they didn't let me have unemployment.
Yeah. So you're pretty much just out the wind, and you've got this hope and dream of having this distillery.
I was supposed to be a cop and own this distillery in a different county at the same time because I wasn't breaking any policies at the time. And then they fired me. And so then I was forced to open up this business and have no paycheck and have my fourth or fifth kid was on the way. And it was a really tough time, really hard on my wife, really hard on my kids. We almost lost the house. I mean, we were 4 months behind on our mortgage. The distillery wasn't doing very well.
Right. That's something that a lot of people don't see, because I think when everyone else sees you and what you've done, they see someone that's like, oh, he's got the golden horseshoe and he didn't have to work for these things. He just trips and finds people that committed murder. And he just, is a lucky bastard that got Officer of the Year. And oh, he just opened up this distillery then, which is probably, having your own business, I'm sure is a big dream for a lot of people, but they didn't see the part of you wondering how you're going to provide for your family.
Yeah. And then working to try to keep the distillery going because one of my big partners had a severe stroke and the other one got deployed. So I was left by myself. So I was doing the work of 3 people. So I pretty much lived. I had a recliner and a cot at the distillery. I wasn't going home. I was working, taking 4-hour naps, keep working, 2-hour nap, working. And I was doing everything. And none of it, I wasn't doing any of it good. I was half-assing everything. And it was really tough. And then I got this wild opportunity from the Drinking Bros to do a podcast with them. And then the funny thing is they wanted to fly me out to do a show at their studio in Texas. And at that time I had $375 in my account and they wanted to fly me out. And I knew it was I needed the publicity. I needed everything. It did make sense. I kind of got in an argument with my wife and we didn't really argue that much. She's not a very argumentative person, but she was like, we have $325 left or $75 left in our account. And, we got to feed the kids and you're talking about flying to go be on a podcast. That makes no fucking sense. And I was like, and at the time I've never been on a podcast, and I was like, look, I think that there's an opportunity here. I think I need to get my voice out there and I think it'll work. And she, was just finally like, fuck it. This better work, And so I bought a plane ticket and I flew to Austin. And when I got to Austin, I had $35 in the account. And so they didn't tell me they were going to pay for anything. And so whenever we went out to eat, I didn't order any food because if they didn't pay for it, I wasn't going to be able to pay for the food. I couldn't Uber because I didn't have any money to Uber. So when I had to meet them places, I was having to figure out how to, like, I was calling fans of the Drinking Bros and being like, hey, you want to hang out? Because I needed a ride, really. And I kind of homelessly bummed myself around Austin while I was with them. And then they offered me, I came home and nothing came of it. And now I had $35 left in our account. Of course, we're fucked. I think my wife's mother gave us some money for groceries. And then I ended up getting unemployment through other welfare and food stamps, or COVID hit. And so that opened up a lot of doors to get like some benefits. So I was actually blessed that COVID hit. But now I was having to take unemployment classes to get this money. So here I am, like former cop, former military guy, never been late on a single payment in my life. Had a hole in my roof from a storm. Insurance wouldn't cover it because when I refinanced my house, they dropped the homeowner's insurance. Now I got a hole in my roof and nothing, like I got this business that's not being successful. I got fired from the police department. I have no unemployment. And then COVID hits. And so COVID was actually a blessing to me. And I started getting some unemployment. I'm still about to lose the house. Didn't want to tell my family. It was just shitty. And then the Drinking Bros offered me a 6-figure contract to podcast with them during that time. And then that saved my ass. You know, of course, the money they gave me, I had to go and spend it to, you know, because I hadn't worked in like a year. So $100,000 was basically went to 2 years of debt, you know, but we were able to get ourselves out of debt, catch up on the mortgage. And then I was able to spend some time with Mike the Cop, make a lot of money with Mike the Cop, $10,000 a month type money, only to have YouTube shut the whole channel down and demonetize it right before the election of Biden and Trump, the first one.
Wow.
And we lose all that money. And Mike selflessly is like, well, if we lose that money and I stay on and you pay me, you're not going to have any money for your family. So he leaves selflessly. And of course, we can't tell our fans any of this. And so I'm able to make that money, but I'm not Mike the Cop. So I have a hard time sustaining it. And I make more bad business decisions by trying to hire other people because I thought if I hired people, it would work out better. And of course, I hired them on and pay, you know, like I stretched myself way too thin and it wasn't working out. They weren't growing the way I thought they would grow. We weren't getting ads. And so then it was just a really tough time. And then I meet Nick Palmisano and I get this massive book deal, once in a lifetime, 1% book deal that is going to cover my family for the next couple of years while I podcast. And I did that again. And of course that money starts to run out because it took like 3 years to get this book out. And then we fast forward to now where somebody else bought the rights to my book. And I can't talk about that right now.
Well, that's exciting.
You know, yeah. So it's like every time, you know, God won't let me be rich and God hasn't let me be wealthy yet. I don't have any motorcycles. I don't have a boat. I don't have a big house. I only have one car. My wife and we have one vehicle. You know, but God has given me just enough money to put groceries on my family's table, work from home, travel with my kids, and basically be debt free for the last 4 years of my life. So I'm not rich, but I've had a very rich 4 or 5 years that I haven't been a cop. And I sold the distillery since then. So I was not successful in running a distillery, which, you know, that's why I don't let people call me an entrepreneur. I've turned down some speaking engagements, which, you know, we're going to pay me, but I don't feel comfortable taking money and talking about entrepreneurship when I was a failed entrepreneur. That doesn't seem viable. And I, you know, the one thing I can give my audience is honesty. And I don't want to paint a picture of being a podcaster, being a journalist, being a writer, or being anything that it's something that it's not, because I don't want people to chase those dreams thinking that they're just going to get rich and all their problems are going to go away, because that's just not true.
Well, this is what is true, is that you were a police officer, you were deployed, You did serve your country. You did serve your community. You did become a small business owner, which is a dream of a lot of people. I actually still have some bottles at my house of the rum and Still Distillery. And you signed with Simon and Schuster for this book, which I'm going to put up here. It's Pig Latin, a serious, funny, true story of a former police officer. And that's something that can be, even when books are not successful, which yours, I'm sure, is going to be. It already is because, like you said, the rights have been bought. But just so then people can have a little bit of a taste of what this is that if you look at Amazon, for example, 90% of the books sell less than 1,000 copies. Yours, I'm sure, has already probably sold more than that in pre-orders by far. So you're already in that top percent of people that have been able to not only put a book out, which is a feat, in itself, but also you're already in the top.
Yeah,
so
I mean, they let me know. They let me see kind of how many books have been sold, but then like they won't let me see how many audiobooks were sold or anything like that. There's a reason. There's like a legal reason why, because I guess the audiobook wasn't done yet or something like that. They told me they released those numbers, but they accidentally sent me. Like some kind of form, and they didn't block out the part of the audiobooks that were already sold, and it was pretty cool. Like, I mean, it was already cool how many books we had sold, but like when I saw that number, I was like, oh shit! Like, all right, cool. Simon Schuster's not going to be that disappointed in me. So we'll see. But I hopefully it's a New York Times bestseller on their sake, because again, there's a lot of people that went above and beyond to make a first time author. Good, but I mean, the general consensus is that they love the book, and that's really something. So that's really cool. And like I said, at the end of the day, if I can make cops' voices heard and tell people the real story of what policing is really like, and builds, not even like empathy, because I mean, we fuck up a lot, but like at least now you have a reason, at least you have more reason to hate them or like them from my book. I don't know. Maybe Abby, you could say, like, I don't know if people are going to revere cops when they read about it. And I think I wrote that in the intro. It's like, I don't know if you're going to like cops more or less, but at least you'll understand them better.
Absolutely.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a journey. It's to say it's funny, I think it minimizes it's really a journey, and it's a page turner. And I think it's your experience, but yeah, I think it shows what cops go through.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Cameron.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned that word journey, and it reminded me of one of the favorite quotes I have from the book. The quote is, "I can't tell you what journey you'll endure, but I can promise it will be absolutely worth it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought that was very impactful to see that you've gone through a lot of stuff. And, that's something that you should be proud of enduring all of that.
Yeah, here's something that's really funny, and I this will be the first podcast I ever get to talk about it. I hope I get to talk about it on other ones. But when I was going through the academy, there was a guy, and the guy quit our department very soon. He came to our department from like another department, was like this big hotshot, huge narcissist, in my opinion. And what he was telling the academy was very like narcissistic view of the academy. And I just kept thinking in my mind, I'm like, if you're really that guy, then why are you here teaching us? Because if you're really that guy, you don't want to be anywhere near an academy teaching people, and you wouldn't be teaching them with the bravado that you have. You would just be out there fucking doing it. So I knew he was a fraud from the beginning, but he asked me, he didn't like me because they didn't like my DD 214, and it's a whole other story. But I think this guy like had some kind of like jealousy for me, or didn't like the attention that I was getting. I don't know. The guy had it out for me. It's fine. Not a big deal. But he called me out and he said, "What is your favorite quote from being in your time in combat? Like, what is a favorite quote of yours, from that?" And I was like, my favorite quote of all time is from Herman Melville in Moby Dick. It says, "I know not all that may be coming, but be it what it will, I'll go to it smiling." And he was like, what does that mean? And I said, it doesn't matter what the scenario is or what you put in front of me. I'm going to go to it with a smile on my face. And he was like, you're going to just go to a house with a dead baby in it and you're going to smile? You're going to go, and he roasted me in front of this whole class and just was like, yeah, this isn't the military. You're not going to sit there and laugh and smile at dead people. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And anyway, he left. And so, but in the academy, I questioned myself, but really, literally, like, that is my favorite quote. It still stands true today. Even though I've seen all the stuff that he said I was going to see, and I wasn't going to be smiling. And he said the words, come back to me in 10 years and tell me if you're still smiling. And I would love to have made it 10 years. But I do know with the years that I did make it, I will look that motherfucker in the face and say, I went to every one of those calls smiling. And it wasn't that you're happy. It's that I don't care what's in front of me. I'm going to go to it optimistically. And I'm going to go to it with fucking rainbow colored glasses. And I think that is important. And I think that in life, you should laugh at your failures. I think you should be able to look at your circumstances and laugh at them. It fucking sucks, right? Like, it sucks when you're about to lose your house. It sucks when your kids and your wife may not be that proud of you. But you know what? Fucking tighten up the bootstraps, put a smile on your face, make your wife laugh, blow on her tummy, fucking go push your kids on the swing set, stop feeling sorry for yourself, and let's just get through it. And at the end of the day, you might have a once in a lifetime book deal from Simon & Schuster that's may or may not being sold as a TV show or a movie. Can't talk about it, but like, you'll be sitting right here in my shoes, and you're just going to, like, right now I'm laughing all the way to the bank, where I'm saying, like, all the stuff that I went through, everything that I went through. Like, I just woke up every day and I went to it smiling, and it sucked. And the lows were very low and the highs were very high for a very short period of time. But if I could go back and do it all over again to be right where I'm at right now, I wouldn't trade any of it for the world, because I still have my wife and I still have my 5 kids. And every decision I made, whether they were good decisions or bad, I made all of them with one thing in mind. I'm doing this for my wife and my kids, and I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for them, and I'm going to stay the course, because at the end of the day, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this work for them. And it worked. There were some parts that didn't. There were parts that sucked. But now, if you were to talk to my wife and you were to talk to my kids, I think they would all agree that they're living the absolute best life right now. Like, we are extremely happy with what we have and where we've made it. And I hope that other people will get that's where that's true happiness right there, is coming out on the other side and having a smile on your face. So, you'll make it through it, whatever you're going through in life. Just know your why. And I think that's gay, right? You hear all those influencers are like, you got to know your why. Dude, that is dumb as that sounds. For me, I didn't know my why. I never would have verbally said what my why was. I always knew that I wanted to be a great father and a great husband. And I think that if you have something that you know you want to get and you truly live to it, at the end of the day, you're going to make it. You're going to get there. It's when you're like, this isn't working, I quit. That's when you fuck up. Like, I don't know what your goal is, whether it's to be a writer, whether it's to have $100,000 in your bank. I was just joking with a buddy. And he, we were just joking that, like, we knew we made it in life if we ever made $100,000. And, so even if your goal is $100,000 or your goal is to make $1 million, like, if that's your goal, whatever it is, I promise you, if you just keep going, you're going to get it. It could take 10 years, could take 8, could take 2. And there's a lot of things that are going to change between that 1 year and that 10 year. But my other favorite quote from Gary Vaynerchuk is, every overnight success story, there was 10 years in the making of that story. Don't believe in the hype. Don't believe in the social media shit. Don't believe that your YouTube channel's going to get 26,000 overnight. Don't worry about it when your friends does. Don't worry about it when you see your friend making 50,000 views on YouTube and you're like, well, dude, I've been trying this for 2 years. Why don't I get 50,000 views? He's only doing. It's not your journey. Your journey is your journey. If your goal is to get 56,000 views on a YouTube channel, keep fucking going. Keep making the content. Keep changing. Keep being self-aware of yourself and your surroundings. Just keep going. Keep going. Keep writing. Keep creating. Keep teaching. Whatever it is that you got going on, keep going. Just keep going. That's all I can say. I can't explain it. All I can say is just keep going. There is an apex to this mountain. Just keep fucking climbing it. You'll get there.
So
I'm not a good
I
wisdom
think
speaker.
you covered that really well, but as far as what's next for you, obviously you've got the book that is about to come out in a few weeks by the time this airs. And you've got the audio book as well, which again is an incredible feat. And I know that you've spent a lot of time working on that. So I'd encourage people to get it. And it's not just a regular audio book. I want to emphasize that this is not you're hearing Eric read to you. This has sound effects. You had a full band that made some of the parts of it.
Yeah, dude, they have drums, dobro, harmonica, like making all these, like Southern, prison camp sounds and foot chase music. And it was really cool, dude. It is so cool. Noel White, an extraordinary job on all of that.
I think reading the book will make you want to listen to the audiobook because it's going to bring the book to life. It's like, wow, now I've read it. Now I want to hear it.
Yeah.
So
it's really fun. I'm so excited. So, hey, I got to get out of here because I have to go pick my kids up from the pool. I dropped them off and it's been like 3 hours since I dropped them off.
Can they swim?
They're probably like
sunburned.
Eric,
thank you for coming on the show. Abby, do you want to plug your show real quick?
Sure. First, I want to tell Eric my favorite quote.
Okay.
The second this is over, I'm going to slap my own face and give myself a hard wedgie.
Damn, dude. Gosh. And it's still true to this day. Like I get out of meetings with people and I'm like, what did I say there? Or I'll get off a podcast and I'll be like, I should give myself a wedgie. Like that whole speech I just gave about like going to the top of the mountain. Like, why? Like, I'm not a motivational speaker. Why do I feel the need to say shit like that? Like, what a fucking idiot.
Well, I'm going to let you go. My podcast is on being a police officer. I'm a civilian interviewing law enforcement from around the country, and you can find it on all podcast platforms. And I've interviewed both these guys.
All right. And last but not least, you can support me by liking, subscribing, following this channel, Santana True Crime. You can also support me by buying my book, A Murder on Campus, A Professor, the Cop, in North Carolina's Most Notorious Cold Case. It is available on Audible as well, Kindle, and anywhere you can buy books. Tansey and Abby, thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys. Cheers.